yeah, it's not as glamorous to show that you can build 18 homes in a year, but what is the mental health or how many people are behind that to actually make that happen? All right, welcome back, you guys, to another episode of Off Grid. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm so excited and so honored to welcome. Carrie Drier is the founder of Roost North Rentals. She's also an Airbnb community leader, also a founding board member of Maestra, and is building her portfolio with her husband and also being a mom. So that speaks volume right there. Welcome to the podcast, Carrie, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited, you guys. It's going to be so good today. Carrie is someone I really look up to in just the portfolio she's built and how she's building it. So tell us a little bit about your story, Carrie, and how you got started.
Yeah, so we got started in 2015. It's been kind of fun watching your journey because it's almost like I'm looking back in time because you've had your daughter from you started it before you had your daughter, but now you're bringing her along to build these things. And so it's been really fun to watch you do that because that's what we did. So in 2015, we had a 4-month-old. We had just moved back to my hometown of Traverse City and bought a house here, kind of downsized because I was going to be a stay-at-home mom and realized that I needed some other things going on other than just being a mom, but wanted to still be with my son and be able to bring him around and do things with him. So we sort of stumbled into investing. We got one property. I really loved it. I loved the design part of it, dealing with guests, just pretty much everything about it, being able to promote our town that I had grown up in and all of the business owners here. So yeah, we just kind of went from there and got a property a year. So we're at 9 properties now, plus some commercial land. And my son just turned 10 and Roost will be 10 this summer. So it's been kind of a fun journey. As I'm reflecting back on it, yes, it was challenging. But yeah, a fun journey to get where we are and be able to still be that mom with him.
Yeah. I mean, Maddox is seriously, he has gone to like all the properties, been there at the furnishing, been sleeping on the mattress, been sleeping on the floor, which I absolutely love. I think it is important to show that like we're not just building the business for them, but like they're in the business. Like they will be a part of that business growing, which honestly, there's not a lot of people that I feel like are doing it with kids or showing how it's been done with kids. And I am nowhere near, my daughter will be 2. I guess we're not going to be on the same track record. I'll say that with 9 properties in 10 years, I don't think. But what do you feel like when you started, you built Roost like year 10, you kind of already had a vision of building this portfolio, but obviously you weren't at 9 properties. So where did that look like for you of like, I want to start Roost at year 1? Because I feel like that happens like, 5 years in for a lot of people of like, wait, I built a brand without realizing it.
Yeah, I posted this on my stories recently. I was looking back through some communication with Nate and I, and we were looking at moving back up to Traverse City and finding a really hard time finding a house. And this was even back like 11, 12 years ago, finding something that was in our price range. And we started like seeing these VRBOs. This was kind of before Airbnb was really big, but we started seeing these places listed on VRBO and that they were making money. And so I don't remember this, but Nate wrote me and said, hey, we should move up, buy, save some money, and then start like an empire of real estate. So I don't really remember that. And honestly, this wasn't my journey to start. He's the one that brought up investing to begin with. I didn't really know much about it at all. And just kind of went with the flow. So when our real estate agent found our first place, I was like, okay, and really like laxed about it. Like I remember not even getting it up and running as soon as we should have. Like our summer seasons where we make our most money, and we just kind of were like, oh, we'll get to it. We're going on vacation and then we'll put it online, and just really relaxed about it. So I guess I don't really feel like I knew what it was going to be at first. But I feel like I'm kind of competitive. So I think once I got one and I realized like, okay, this is hitting on a lot of different things for me. and allowing me to explore a lot of this and bring my son with me, I just sort of pushed it. I don't know if I knew where we were going to be. But I think, yeah, a couple years into this, I was like, okay, this is really working for us. So let's like really start building it. So really from the very beginning, we didn't have a brand. I actually
Mhm.
didn't have Instagram from the start because we could just put things up on Airbnb
Mhm.
and VRBO and get booked. Like we did not need to do any marketing. I didn't even have professional pictures for the first few years.
Mhm.
And so, but I wanted to start promoting my local businesses. So that's really how our brand started. And then it was fun to be able to then turn that into partnerships with people, share our journey more.
Mhm.
That was really shared sort of on my personal social media, of kind of how much it takes to actually get these properties up and running. I mean,
Mhm.
at the time we weren't building anything from the ground up, but we did a full renovation of a rental. You know, we've, like you said, lived in the units. We've lived in campers. We've lived in my mom's pole building. So just thankfully had some imagery of that, but I do wish that I did more of that. So I love, that's why I love seeing your real time documentation of it, because I do feel like that just wasn't as much as of a thing to capture.
Mhm.
So I wish I would have obviously captured more of that time, because you're just sort of hustling through it,
Yeah.
and we just would kind of get on to the next thing. It'd be like once we
Mhm.
got the property up and running, we would be like, okay, what's our next deal going to be, and trying to figure
Mhm.
that out, and then kind of going through the process again.
Yeah, no, we always say we're like, our daughter better look back and think she has like some cool ass parents. Like we are like we made her baby book and like it's like 2 weeks old at the cabin, like in drywall, in insulation inspections. Like we were like, she better think that we are cool or something for doing
Maybe
this. And
not
like
like teenage years, but
yeah. Yeah. Like having those documented. But I do agree. Like that's really how I started, was just sharing the journey of like, I don't have it all figured out. It's not in the finished phases. Like our portfolio is not done, but here's like behind the scenes and every step of the way. And I really try to like pride myself of like, I'll show you guys the ugly before it's pretty. And I say there's a lot of work that happens before a guest walks in your door, like you mentioned. And I think I want to talk about, because you and Nate are building this together. I always kind of say real estate is a family business. Like, even if one person's really spearheading it or in the day to day, like it takes time, it takes money, it takes commitment from both ends. So, what does it look like as you guys have built the business throughout the last decade together? Like, have your positions evolved? Has one you're kind of in the day-to-day management probably a little bit more than he is. So how do you, because Reed and I, we do this together. So how have you guys like found your roles and have that like shifted over time?
yeah. So I think one of the biggest shifts that happened is that from when we started, Nate was really our handyman and
Mm-hmm.
was really doing like the renovation. So the one I was talking about, that was one of our, I think that was like our third or fourth rental. And he basically would work his full-time job, go at night, bring the dog, and sometimes spend the night over and then come back. So then I would watch Mannix and we would like tag off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like really strenuous, because that's a lot, as you know, like to
Mm-hmm.
do anything like that. And then also have like a W-2. So we like learned really quickly after that, like that wasn't like the best option for our relationship. It just like put a lot of strain. Because it's so intense, and because you are trying to get it done within a certain time frame, because you want to make sure that you're making money off of your investment. So it's involved in that way, but we still love doing projects together. Like when we can work together getting something done at a unit, like if we don't have someone to help us and it's just him and I, like that, like we thrive in that and love it. So obviously I would love to do more of that in the future as things like change. But Nate does a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we've talked about this, like you basically do everything that Nate and I do together. And I'm just in awe all the time, because he handles like all the taxes, like anytime we're dealing with the mortgage company or
Mm-hmm.
money, he helps with all the software, the website. So he does a lot of things, and he's just so quick and efficient that he can kind of fit it in these little pockets. Again, kind of like you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay. And I don't necessarily work that way. I'm like, I need all day to like do this thing where you're like, okay, I know I have 20 minutes and I'm going to get 15 things done. So yeah, he's still really involved, but we've peeled it back a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, he sent me a message being like, hey, please maybe stop sending all the cancellations from VRBO or direct booking to refund them. And I'll teach you how to do them. So I was like, damn it. Because there's some things I just don't want to do. You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's over here. And so, yeah, I think ideally we would love to have him have a little bit more flexibility, but it is really nice to have him have a solid W-2 that has insurance, that has a solid paycheck, that something that he loves to do in an industry that he loves to do, because it really does allow for me to play a lot more. We wouldn't have been able to do what we did without that. One, for the money sense of it. A lot of what we did and the reason why we went a year after a year is because part of the reason is we would save his bonus and we would use that to put a down payment, because that's one of the hardest parts is to be able to save up money for something like that. So I think also Nate and I are a little different, and he likes some stability, and I think he would have thought I was a little too wild with all of the things that I was doing if we didn't have that solid income coming in.
Yeah. I mean, 2 points that I want to stress to those listening is one, like you guys started almost by accident. Like I kind of think the naiveness of a lot of us when we started is actually like what propelled us to keep going, because same with us, like we did iPhone photos. Like I didn't know anyone doing Airbnb. I didn't know what I was doing. I was figuring it out. And now I can understand like there's so much information out there, which also is kind of the reason of like, why aren't you starting? Because there's podcasts like this, there's mentors, there's so much info that the analysis paralysis can get a little, overwhelming. But at the same time, like there's so much at your fingertips that none of us had. So that was one point I want to stress to those listening of like, you don't feel ready. Well, Carrie and I both literally had no idea what we were doing, kind of got thrown into it by accident and literally had iPhone photos, all the things I would never suggest someone to do today. We did. And also I really like that. I mean, you have probably one of the largest portfolios that is self-owned that I know today. And you guys are still doing this while having that W-2 income, because there's something to be said about having the stable income. The W-2 banks love you guys. I'm sure like you're like their best friend. I'm their worst friend. And there's something to be said about that everyone I think gets into this and is like, how quick can you quit your job? How quick can you leave, travel, whatever you want to do? And I understand that because, it has given all of us opportunities to be able to say no to whatever doesn't serve you. And we may not have been able to do that prior, but having that income and that stability, and like Nate likes his job, he doesn't hate it. Adds a little bit of stress here and there with like the time and management, but there's something to be said about building a business while, also working a job. Reed and I were just talking about this, like anyone that has a successful business or a side hustle that became a full-time income was doing it in double time, overtime. Like we were working multiple jobs, working at night, doing all night, layovers at properties so we could go work our job the next day. And I don't think people talk about that enough. Like anyone you guys know that you can think of that has a business that they now do that full time, or it's become someone's one-time income, is because they were going in overdrive for many, many years. So when you look back, is there anything that like you could have told yourself, 10 years ago that you wish you would have known, while just doing property to property, next project, which we all get like that. But I think sometimes you have to take a step back and realize like how far you've come, and you guys are doing it with a newborn.
I think that there's always, when you look back, especially when your market kind of explodes in the way that ours did, yours did, where it's like, oh man, I wish I would have made these other decisions. Like looking back, it's like, of course I would have bought as many lake houses as I could when they were $400,000. But for us, $400,000 was not attainable to us, especially when we could buy something for under $200K in like the downtown area. And now with all the regulations that a lot of our townships are going through, it's like, okay, I'm happy with what we landed on. But yeah, I feel like I feel very happy with how we went about it. I think that we did have to make a lot of sacrifices. Like you were talking about, there is a lot of people and they have different motives, and that's fine. If you want to do this and you want to take that income and use it to travel, I have friends and family that do that, and it's okay, but they're not going to grow, and that's all right. You can have one or two that can kind of supplement some of that. You know, you're going to keep your jobs. I think ours has always been a long-term play, but I do think that that's also helped because I haven't been so worried about, okay, yes, of course we want to be profitable, and yes, we want our properties to do the best they can. But we always just, and I think you are like this too. It's like, you know, the long-term play of it. And so it's okay to be like, okay, we're like we're starting to see that now, like 10 years in, you know, and we were able to buy a lot of our properties because we went sort of quick in this good time, where now they're worth a lot more, so we can borrow against them if we want to. We don't have to be as stressed about the economy because we're able to adjust our pricing. So yeah, I just feel like there's obviously a lot of regrets that could have happened, but also what you were talking about earlier, like what if the alternative was we didn't do anything? Like we wouldn't be anywhere. So I do feel like there is something to be said about that. And I think we all like to hear those quotes and hear those things of like, oh, this person failed so many times and then this is why they succeeded. But it is really hard to be the person that can fail at those things. And I haven't been perfect in everything that I've done, especially when we tried to expand in some other things. But then to really be like, okay, like we're kind of cutting those things out, readjusting, and we're going to be okay because we have this portfolio that we own. And that wasn't also my decision. Like I would have probably been way riskier than Nate. And I do really appreciate, because now I've adopted this from him. Like we never took money from family. We never took on partners. Like we never did anything like that. And Nate was like, if we can't own it ourselves, like it's not ours to have. And I didn't understand that at first. And now I'm like, this is so great because now I don't have to answer to anyone else. I can make my own decisions. Yeah, any money that's coming in, obviously, other than our expenses, like is ours. If we make improvements on our places, that's a direct amount of money that's coming to us. It's not a percentage. So I know that it's not available for everyone, but I do think if you take that different mindset of like, I don't need to have so many doors right now, and this is what equals to success, I think that slow and steady mindset can really pay off. And really 10 years goes by so fast.
Oh my gosh, so fast. Like we've been doing this for now. I think I looked at it was like 5 years, and I was like, 5 years. And Reed and I were kind of like making fun of ourselves. We were like, oh, like 5 years, and we're going to be like on property 4 and 5, like doing what people do in like a year and a half. Like we were like joking about ourselves. And I was like, no, literally. But I do agree. Like we all get in that comparison mindset of like, oh my gosh, I should be doing it faster. Or, look at what she did in a decade. Can I do that? Everyone's timeline and journey is literally their own. You cannot compare. Markets are not comparable. Purchase prices are not comparable. Times that they got in. So I think it's important to know that, like you said, the long term, if you see like the long term play, I think it puts a lot less pressure on like the day to day, what you're doing each year. And like your year is not valued by how many properties you brought to life. Like truthfully, you guys, like this is fun and we love real estate. It's, not all Carrie and I do. Like we are, multiverse people that don't just do real estate all day, every day. There's other things that matter. I love that you mentioned purchase price with some of your properties being insane price points that I could never even dream of. That was like our renovation cost. I can't even, but I know your one property, the A-frame, which we obviously just got done with the renovation. It was very extensive. And so is the A-frame, like the drone before and after. I love that you guys have those because it's so crazy, the difference. You guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out her Instagram where she puts that. But talk us about, or just one of your favorite properties that you guys worked on, but that was a pretty insane before and after. And the purchase price that you bought that thing for, like under 6 figures, is insane.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, do you want me to tell you? Are you going to be mad at me? No. So that, again, when I talk about this property, this was not our first property, you guys. The cabin wasn't Zoe's first property. Like this is not a property that you take on at the very beginning. Like we had the backing of 7 other properties that we could pull, like, we knew we had money coming in and we could be a little bit more playful, is what I call it, which is really not playful when it comes to it. But so I don't know. I just always wanted an A-frame. We had bought property out in Northport with the house we actually live in now that we were going to build as a rental, or we built as a rental and then lived in it. And we wanted to build an A-frame on there, but we were just getting these like insane quotes, and I don't know what was going on, but we just couldn't find anyone to build it in any sort of reasonable way. So it's just sort of in my mind. And then during COVID, when they were literally locking you down, even if you were exposed to someone and the health department was calling you, one had popped up online. And so I called my realtor and I was like, this is going to go fast. Like, it's sold as is. It looked terrible. But I'm like, it's in a location that's near us. I, for some reason, saw the vision kind of really immediately for it. And I knew we had someone that could go look at the property with our realtor just to kind of give us an idea of how much things would cost, because we were going to have to waive the inspection fee, or inspection period, which I don't ever like to tell people to do, but I just knew that we would have to on this property. So I wanted to know kind of what we're getting ourselves into. Still like spent way more than we anticipated. But yeah, the property was listed, I think, for like 70 or 75,000, and we paid 90 cash, which is like insane. But yeah, I think I kind of a little bit tricked Nate to be like, oh, the floor is fine. Like, this is fine. I actually didn't even see the property in person because I was quarantined. But I think knowing now, we maybe would have caused a little bit of pause, but obviously, like, it's a very successful property. People love it. It turned out beautiful, but yeah, we had to do so much to that property. And every time we would pull something back, it'd be like, this is the worst we've ever seen. Like, this is the worst roof we've ever seen. The siding had water damage and fire damage. Like, oh, we have to now replace this. So it ended up being kind of way more expensive than we had anticipated. But again, thankfully we have these other properties. So we were able to not be like stop the project, because I could see that happening and causing someone a lot of stress if they end up running out of money. And I think everything like this always takes more money, especially when you're even building new does, but you can at least anticipate that a little bit more unless there's some things that happen. But when you're pulling apart an old property, you don't know what you're going to find. And I know that you say you like to build from the ground up better, but I did really love having some restraints. Like, I loved being able to be in the space and keeping some of the old character. We'd made a lot of decisions kind of on the fly. We weren't originally going to build in the one twin room. So that was kind of fun. We got to like build out the floor, put an actual wall. So like there's one full bedroom and then a loft. But yeah, I think we spent like $160K into it. But yeah, I mean, it just keeps going up in value all the time.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite ones to stay at. It's not on the lake, but you can walk down to the lake. So we kind of were able to like get that for our guests, but not have the taxes or like the price of being directly on the water. And I think really, again, this is what you guys do. It's like knowing your market. Like, you guys are in one market, we're in one market. So when I saw that, it was a little bit of a drive from Traverse City, but I knew that it was a good spot for a rental. And I knew the area really well. So I think that also is such a benefit. I know not everyone has a market they can buy in, but if you can explore your market around you, like, you're going to have an advantage over other people kind of immediately.
Oh, for sure. I actually like two things that people say is one, like having all your properties in one market is so risky, which I understand the concept of that. But like you guys experience, like you guys have done builds, you've done renovations, you have condos, townhouses, like you have single family homes. Like when you diversify and you're attracting to so many different demographics in the same market, I actually think it can be a huge play on your logistics and your team. And I know I always say like, I mean, I do agree. Like, it is fun doing the renovation where you get to like build life back into the property that like was so dilapidated and needed so much love. But the headaches that come with the renovation versus a new build is just so much different in different ways. it is very rewarding to look back and be like, I brought this from this to that, and like the before and afters, but you're just re-engineering poorly engineered things half the time, or, you know, things that you're like, how did this ever hold itself for this long? It should be falling apart. It's absolutely shocking, like what you come across. But I mean, the price point that you guys were able to do it at, and just you learn so much through renovation of like problem solving. The decision fatigue is obviously a thing, but like even when we had all done new builds, so when we did the cabin, I never budgeted for roll offs and dump runs because I was like, oh, like, you know, new builds, you get the material you'll need, you build it, and then you use it all. So we spent like $13,000 in roll offs for that cabin just to get it like empty, get rid of the chimney, get rid of, you know, all the poor wood and drywall and everything. And we should have bought a dump truck for 10 grand that we have appreciating asset that we could have rolled our own dumps. But we didn't know that because we had never done a renovation of that extent. So there are like pros and cons. I definitely don't know if I'll be like, we look at properties that need a renovation like that of the cabin and the A-frame level, and we will walk them, and you can tell on both of our faces, like, oh my gosh. And we literally like, we'll sit there in silence for like an hour and we're like, we can't do it. Like we would rather just build new, even though you have to do infrastructure and utilities. Like we had to do all new utilities at the cabin. Like we had to do all new electrical, all new plumbing. Like it was like the same extent of a new build, it felt like. And it was around the same price. Honestly, probably more than what a new build would cost in this area.
I feel like someday you will. I feel like it's like having a baby. Like someday you'll get far enough away that you'll forget. And then you'll be like, remember when we brought that property to life and like, look what we've done for the town.
Yeah, we're like still in, I feel like, not the thick of the renovation, but like we just got told that we have like a water leak in our exterior pipe, and we like replaced all the exterior pipes around the property into the home. So now we have to like we're still in the renovation phase because we did kind of
like doing more things for the TV show. So like, yeah, you're still like there doing things, but yeah. And I mean, we are too, we're starting to kind of add stuff, but I think that that's the other thing that we've done a little bit different too, is like, I haven't really played into a lot of like the trendy, like design themes. Like we just got a hot tub at the A-frame. Like, I think it was like a year and a half into even owning that. We don't have a hot tub at our other new build, but we might do that in the fall. So we can start adding these things, which they're already doing well. And I'm excited to then see, okay, how will they do when we add some of those things? Because I do think that's the other thing too, is like, I think people go all in so hard at the very beginning. And I mean, you experienced that. Like you did have a hot tub right away, but you didn't have a sauna. And like now you're adding those things. So you're already doing well. And now you're able to like increase your profitability on it. But I do think that that's the other thing too. It's like, I think making sure that you're really doing things that you want to do, and not just like, again, when we were talking about access to all this information, it's like you are overloaded online of like, okay, here's all the things that you need to do. And I do think that that can be really challenging, especially money wise. And it's okay to like make sure that it's going to be profitable and then potentially add those things later, or like kind of stick to your gut on what you think will work in your area. And we've talked about this a lot too. It's like not everything works in certain areas. And like for us, a majority of our portfolio, like our guests are everyone, like, because we're in the area. So we're getting like the older couple, we're getting people that came up here for like funerals or for weddings. We're getting bachelorette parties. We're getting baby moons. Like literally, it's really hard to define our target market. And so we have to kind of make sure that we're sort of appealing to everyone, and not everyone wants like neon signs and like all of that. So I just think really making sure, again, if we're talking to people that are looking at starting, you don't have to have like a pickleball court, and you don't have to have all these things in order to have a successful rental. And I know you and I have talked about that. Like our smaller ones can do better sometimes, or like, because the cleaning fee's less, you're renting it out all year long. Like sometimes these bigger properties, like they're a little bit more seasonal because they're a lot more expensive. You've got to coordinate with 8 of your friends in order to go up there or have a bigger family. So I like having that diversity, because we are very seasonal here. Same thing with Colorado. And so like being able to allow for some more reasonable rents in those off season has helped us, obviously we don't profit in those months, but at least it pays our bills and then we can
Mhm.
make our profit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually recorded a podcast episode about like mega properties versus unique smaller stays. And I think there's a misconception in the market that like you can only make insane profitability, multiple six figures or 150 a year on a huge house when the cabins are highest revenue so far this year and it's a 4-person property, like 2 bed, 2 bath. It's 1,000 square feet. I think it like looks bigger on social media than it is, but it is so tiny. Carrie actually saw it and walked it when we were probably in framing, I would say. And it's tiny, you guys. Like it is not that big, but it just shows, I think, if you're cultivating the stay for the person who's actually going to be coming there, not the people that are posting on social media, like you need to have this and this, and this boosted my revenue. Like every market is different. We're really only adding the sauna to the cabin, not because we need to boost revenue, but because the TV show's coming. And I'm like, I really would want it filmed at the, last state it's ever going to be. I don't want to like film it, not have the sauna, and then like 6 months we put the sauna in. And now like that footage isn't really relatable, but I 100% agree. And people don't talk about amenities cost money, they cost time, they cause headaches. And like the fact that your holiday house can go for $1,000 a night without a hot tub, like that's going against what everyone is telling you on social media, but it's proof, like,
Yeah.
align with your own timeline. And I want to kind of pivot with that being said, because it is a lot to take on all these properties, team members to manage. How do you feel like your theory of like mental health as a business owner and also a mom and a wife and a daughter and a sister has evolved since starting your business to what it is now? Because I kind of feel like you went through like a pivot of like, I need to reel back and like evaluate myself and how I'm doing before I put it into everything else.
Yeah, I think I didn't have any sense of taking care of myself for a long time. I really put a lot of my like time and energy just totally focused on the rentals and obviously like managing our family and doing that stuff, but I really didn't put myself first. And I know a lot of moms go through that. And then when you have like a baby business and have an actual baby, like it's even worse. So yeah, I think it's now that I've kind of gone through and I still am not where I want to be, but really put myself first and realize that like, wow, I've done a lot of damage to myself by doing that. Some things that I think are not reversible and I just kind of have to be okay with that. Like, but so it's like when I see other business owners, other entrepreneurs, it's like I'm sure they're annoyed by me, like want to sit them down and like remind them of those like long-term, because I think a lot of us that get into this are very competitive. Like we can handle a lot of stress. We kind of thrive off of the chaos. We thrive off of the like intensity of it. We kind of just, I don't know, we love being in that. But I think what happens is we forget to give ourselves like those seasons off of that. Like we just kind of, then if we find something else to fill that with. And that's what I always would do. And I think also having ADHD doesn't help, because then it's like when you're quiet for a little bit, you're like, I'm going to start this other thing, or I'm going to do this. And so I've really, really, really had to take and it's not even really been that long. Like the last year is where I kind of started looking and being like, hey, okay, you're turning 40. You've really got to shift some stuff, and hopefully some of these things, I was starting to have like signs of like autoimmune disease and all of these food sensitivities and stuff that was coming up. And it's like, it's easy to justify that stuff out. But then if you really take a look at it and be like, no, my body has just been in like pure stress. So I was a little concerned because I did end up losing my assistant. And so I was a little concerned what that would look like without her. Because I didn't want I tended to like go all in or nothing. It'd be like when I had the time, I'd go all into my health and then I would go all into my business. And there was really no in between. So I think this time I've got it. I'm not perfect at it, but I've realized like I have to have those days where I'm just like chilling at home, being with my family. And if I don't have enough time to like take my vitamins and brush my teeth, like I have too much stuff going on and I need to like not try to beat myself up about it, but like readjust that. So I've again, you still come up to those things and I still am realizing that, but I'm at least much more aware and I want to be there and be healthy for my son and for my
Mhm.
family. And I don't think I could have taken much more of that where I could have been in that healthy position. So it's a lot. And I don't know how, I really all the time are like, how do people do this? Like, how are we running businesses, being moms, taking care of ourselves, working out? Like,
Mhm.
it's intense. Um, and I do feel lucky that I do have a job that's flexible because I can, have flexibility with my workouts. I can take a morning off if I want to. Like this morning, I didn't come in um,
Mhm.
until 11:30 to start working. So I do feel lucky for that. And it is hard to see people that like don't necessarily have that flexibility. And it's like, how are they
Mhm.
doing those things? How are they doing that?
I know. I actually say that all the time. I'm like, because Ree took some time off of his job, and obviously I, do real estate and social media and everything. And I'm like, so basically, we had one kid, and like both had to quit our jobs. So like, how are people doing this with, multiple 9 to 5s or other jobs and side hustles? But I do think, especially real estate, like it's time intensive and it takes, like some mental intensive of managing teams and stuff. It can be pretty automated. And like, I think losing your assistant and seeing how well you've handled literally an entire portfolio that many would have outsourced to a property management company, and you're doing it basically, with your systems and by yourself, shows that like it really can be implemented into your lifestyle. But I think in the early days, if you don't respect your time and health, like you're respecting your business and your guests and everyone else that's a part of you, like it's not going to be sustainable. It will burn you out. And I think especially we always think like there has to be a next project. Like when we finished the cabin, we literally didn't do anything real estate for like 8 months. Like we just reaped the benefits of doing 15 months of renovation with a newborn. We didn't do any properties, didn't buy anything, didn't do a renovation. And it was like so nice. And then you go back into the ebb and flow of like now it's intensive again. And I think it's fun. We get to pick that a little bit for ourselves, but it can be a lot to manage. What do you feel like, over the last decade, I'm really keen on building like a lifestyle aligned business. So instead of a business that runs your life, it implements into your life, like having your son with you and taking him to school or having a day off. What is your business kind of formed into with like the priority of your health, your marriage, your son, and aligning it with your lifestyle so it feels, more collaborative, I guess?
Well, you know this because I shared like my document of my 5 pages of goals. And a lot of them are centered around like, okay, how do I have the best marriage? How do I have the best family life? How do I have the best health? And also do the business stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, I've really just had to like have that uncomfortable conversation with myself because I do feel like in the past I've put even though I've had my son with me and I've built this business around it, I still feel like I've chosen things that were business related or guest emergencies or feeling like everything was emergency or getting those texts and having to be on my phone all the time. I kind of feel like that trumped like family
Mhm.
time. And so I've really had to put like a lot of restrictions on myself. Like I know when we first met and you were like, I leave my phone in a different room when I sleep, I was like, might have broke out in hives. I was like, what are you talking about? I think I thought I had to be like this accessible all the time and it had to be me.
Mhm.
And even though I had some things in place, but it's like I've really just doubled down on making sure that we have our processes in place. We're doing as much preventative maintenance. That's kind of the mode we're in right now. So that I can have this summer where like, yes, there will be things that come up, but I've like really spent a lot of time putting an amazing cleaning team in place, an amazing maintenance team in place, which is really what you need when you're not like next to your properties, because they can deal with those like emergency deals. And then, yeah, really trying to rely on my processes. I thought I was the only one that could do pricing. and I had to manually do it because I've known my market and I live here. And it's like, I haven't really looked at pricing. I didn't even know, like, and granted, we've been pretty busy this off season, but we had like a couple places open on a weekend. And I was like, oh, I should have looked more into that. But I'm like, again, it's slow season. I'm not going to stress
Mhm.
about it. And that was good that I didn't look at it because I was obviously doing these other things. So
Mhm.
I just think, yeah, taking a look and being like, why are we doing what we're doing? And I think this is what you do so good at. It's like you want to be with your family. You want to be outdoors. You want to be
Mhm.
doing these things. And this real estate is helping you do that.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I had to like be okay with like, okay, we're here. We're not having a new project right now. I do get a little antsy, but I know that it's not time to start a new one right now. My son
Mhm.
is 10, he really needs me. And I've been really being able to enjoy that and allowing Nate to do stuff too. Like he's been building a sauna for fun at our house. And like, we would not be able to do that because I would be like, if
Mhm.
you're building a sauna, it better be for one of the rentals.
Yeah.
You have no extra time, or I'm going to be doing all these things. So I really want him to be able to have some of those hobbies and free time as well. Um,
Mhm.
so this is a long-winded answer, but yeah, it's just really taking a look at yourself though, and just again, reminding yourself why you're doing this. And I think
Mhm.
because of social media and because of other people, it's easy to get online and be like, oh shit, I should be doing this, or I'm behind, or this person's starting a new project. I want to start a new project. It's really easy to continue to get wrapped up in that. And we do have a really hard time celebrating and enjoying what we have.
Mhm.
And so this year I finally decided to pay myself. So before we would just take all the money, it would stay in the business. We would reinvest it into new properties. We would sometimes take owner's pay here and there, but we really have shifted to be like, no, we're going to save that money aside and pay.
Mhm.
And eventually, like, hopefully Nate could retire
Mhm.
earlier. We could at least leave that space for him. But if we don't leave that space in there, we're just going to always put that money towards something else. So
Mhm.
that's been really interesting. And it's really kind of changed my thoughts on stuff too, because not that we weren't treating it like a business, but it's really like, okay, what are we spending our money on? Let's make sure that
Mhm.
we're keeping tight on some of this stuff so that we can allow ourselves to do those things and just travel more. I mean, we've always traveled a lot, but we've really in the last like year or so just been like, no, we're going to be able to take time away and trust that we can
Mhm.
handle it. And so we went to London last year. A couple of years ago, we went to Iceland. So I would love to do more of that. And I thought I wouldn't be able to do that without my assistant. And we've been able to still travel. We're going to be in Vegas and Zion in a couple weeks. And I feel really good about the place that we're at right now.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have done a really good job of just like, I mean, truthfully, it's like, okay, if you worked so hard, for 10, 20 years, you're going to look back and be like, I missed it all. Like those are the good old days that I should have been, when your son's 10, he's never going to be 10 again. Like, you're never going to be able to climb mountains with him when you're waiting until you're 65, retired and things aren't chaotic. Things are always going to be busy. But I agree with that. Like, we have to sometimes pencil, like, yeah, there's things we could be doing. There's projects we could be working on, dump truck tires we should be putting on, but instead we're going to take an hour bike ride because you're never going to get that day back. And that's literally when you start, that's why you're building it. And then once you're in it, it's like, what's next? What's coming next? Why, what can we do? And I will say, I still sleep with my phone on airplane mode. So does Reed. Like this whole house shuts down at night because I'm not getting EMF radiation for guests. But I do take on the stance. And I think some of my students, they have a joke, like they channel their inner Zoe when shit hits the fan, basically. And I tell them, like, you guys, if the house is flooding, if there's an emergency, like they are also adults that like they can critical think, like they can call emergency services. If the house is flooding and I'm 12 hours away, what am I really going to be doing to help the situation? Like, I'm not there. Yes, I can call the plumber, but like, it's like in the middle of the night. No one's going to show up at 2 a.m. So I really think like, yeah, you kind of have to self-evaluate. Like, okay, is this like the control that I'm trying to carry, or can I actually like help if something happens? I have answered a few midnight phone calls, getting lost with directions, but that was like feedback for me as a host. It's like, okay, we need to provide better directions so no one ever has to make that call. So I like that.
That's my motto. I feel
Yeah.
like and again, I say this, but I do like talking to my guests, but my motto is to never have a guest call me or talk
Yeah.
or need to talk to me. And that is meaning because the directions are clear, everything has been handled. So I take feedback really personally. And by that meaning, like, I take action. And unless it's like a preference on a mattress, and most of my guests say, I love it, and one says, no, I'm not going to take that. But I do know that most people don't say stuff. So I want to make things really clear. And if they are messaging me, it's like, that was a great stay. Thanks for the recommendation. Like, all positive things. But I do think, like, even if you live near your properties or you don't live near your properties, making that priority of like, okay, what are my biggest complaints? And that's what we did this year. It was like, okay, the water heaters in 4 of our places, like last summer, you get more complaints in the summer because people are paying more and there's just a lot more tax on the places. And that was one of them, is people don't understand how water heaters work. So they would all try to take a shower at the same time or back to back. And so I was like, how do we remedy that? And we realized, like, okay, it will not cost us that much to upgrade it, get a little bigger one, and like have that better guest experience, and then get like less complaints. Because even it's not like I'm going to talk down to my guests about how a water heater works. Like, they're experiencing that. And so it's like, okay, if we can lessen that. So there's been kind of boiling that down to be like, okay, what are our guests' biggest complaints? How can we remedy that? Same thing with, certain roads to go down. We learned a lot this winter. Like, even though we tell them not to go down a certain road, the GPS, once they're there, tries to take them that way. So we had someone get stuck. And my immediate thought was like, shut this property down for the winter. Like, I never want that to happen to someone, even though it's technically not my fault because it was a county road. But it's like, okay, no, how can we adjust how we're communicating to our guests better in order for that to not happen? So I do think when you talked about like emergencies and things like that, and like the guests, I think it is like more of like the anxiety around like, am I going to get a phone call? Is that going to happen? The answer is probably yes, it will at some point. Like, you're going to get someone maybe once a year, or have something happen where they're locked out or something major happens. But if you've done as much as you can do to remedy that, I think that's been my biggest shift in this last year, is because now I'm like, okay, Zoe is like, I channel my inner Zoe as well. I do still have my phone on loud, and I do have 2 backup numbers on my voicemail, but it isn't in my room.
There we go. Progress. I'm like the most type B business owner. I actually was like, I should do a post about like all the funny things as a type B business owner that I do. Cause I just like, I'm like, it'll work itself out. But I mean, there is a point.
I also want to call you out really quickly. Your phone's always on do not disturb. I just want to tell you right now, because every time I text you, it's like, do you want to alert anyway? I'm like, no, she'll get it, but it's on do not disturb.
I know, which I will say. So I don't know how my daughter did this, clever 6-month-old, but somehow she turned my phone on like do not disturb forever. But like, I get notifications. So I know it says that, because Reed's like, it always says you're on do not disturb. But I'm like, but I get them. So I just don't know what she did to do that. So now it's just like stuck on there. So everyone probably thinks I'm like in La La Land half the time, but I do get alerts. But 6-month-old did that to my phone. So who knows how she was able to figure that one out. Before we pivot into like what you guys are doing next, I do want to ask, because I feel like in a way, I'm doing what you did 20 years later with social media around and the digital space around. And I love that you kind of hold a hard stance about social media and like how it plays into your life and your business, and like it doesn't just take over. And, I grew up with it. So it's kind of an everyday thing for me to just like post something and throw it up. But I feel like you have a really good, healthy stance and like priority on how you treat it. So how do you feel like social media aligns as like a business owner, as someone in the digital space, at the conferences, at the retreats, that feels healthy for you?
I still feel like I always want to restrict myself more. And it's really challenging because I'm now down to like an hour and a half of social media, and then my husband has the code, so I can't go over. But I realized on Tuesdays I do an Instagram live, or I just started to, and I need more time. So he like opened it back up, and then I realized like I don't have self-control. And I was like, you're going to have to change the code every week. And he's like, Carrie, I do not want to do that. And I'm like, I don't have enough self-control if it's just open, because I think because our business is online, it's so easy to like just be online. It's like you catch yourself just like getting on Instagram. So when I have limits, it like reminds me of like, okay, if you have business stuff to do later, you can't just be on here. But I have a love hate with it. It's like I've tried to, after 8 p.m. and before 8 a.m., have those limits. And I even want to restrict that more. Like we cut our son off. He gets like some TV after school and we say 6 p.m. no more. Or anything that you're doing, if you wanted to play a video game with your dad or whatever. And so I've almost thought about moving mine up to 6 p.m. So that I can have, it's just not even an option and there's no distraction. But it's really hard because that's where you stay connected with people. Like a lot of my friends, including you, like that's a big way of how we communicate with each other. We're like commenting on each other's life that we've got going on. I love being able to share what I've got going on. Like I love being able to like, just even like the messy parts, like the funny parts, like I want to be able to share online. But yeah, it's hard. And we've talked a lot about this. It's like, I think there's sometimes where I literally will just kind of go dark for a while. And I like being able to have that option because my business right now doesn't rely so much. Yes, we get some direct bookings and collaborations and things like that through Instagram, but still a majority of our business is coming through other ways like Airbnb, VRBO, Google, Vacation, that like I can still come and go as I please. But yeah, I'm trying to get into like a little bit better of cadence and then just like leave it. I think the other part, and I don't know if this probably doesn't happen to you because you are very type B, but it's like when you do post something, you tend to be on more because then you're like, oh, is someone commenting on it? Like what's going on? And then now with my restrictions, I'm like, oh, I'll see tomorrow. Like if anyone has anything to say about that, or if I spelled something wrong or said something wrong.
No, it is true. Like I sometimes notice like if a post like went viral or like is getting a lot of traction, I'll like check my phone more to like respond to comments and stuff. But honestly, I like don't really play into like the algorithm of like you have to like comment for 30 minutes before and after you post. Like I just don't do any of that. I'm actually the worst.
I don't even know that you're supposed to do that. So I think I'm worse than you.
They want you to like, show some like, I think traction before you post or something. But I am like the worst because I will scroll and like forget that you're supposed to like things. So literally like my sister will be like, so you like haven't liked like any of my posts the whole year. And it's because I scroll, but I never like double tap. I'm like the worst user of it. But I do stand by, if you're going to spend time on it, you should be creating, not consuming. Obviously, we're all consuming to like see what others are doing, what's working for them. But I always tell my husband, like, if you're going to have the apps, you might as well create on them because they can bring a lot of opportunity and business and connections. Like I literally wouldn't have known you if it worked for social media in some way. So there is some beauty that comes behind it in the relationships, but it is designed it's just like sugar. Like it's designed for you to come back and keep wanting more. And that's something you have to be aware of, is like, they do not have your best interest. They want to get, more users to open it more times. So it's important to like be aware of it, but in a way it's part of all of our lives. So I think, like you said, like having parameters that stick with you and align better for your lifestyle and like how you want to treat and be around it. But yeah, if you're going to be on it, you might as well.
It's helpful to have my son in this time too, because as much as I don't like virtual reality, like I know that that's like something that's a part of his life and is it even going to continue to be bigger. And all of his friends are on it. He like interacts with them. Like that's how he has like play dates now sometimes. So, but it's been nice to like have that in peril. And so we can tell him like, hey, we also have to put restrictions on ourselves. Like we're putting on you. Because all of these apps, including your VR, including like video games, including every YouTube Kids and everything that you're consuming, is meant to continue to like suck you in. And so like really explaining to him that, because I do think that wasn't really explained to us until the last couple of years. And I think a lot of us, at least I did, had a lot of shame about why I kept getting sucked in so much to social media and why it was such an issue for me. And like now I think people are talking about that and like the dopamine hit, and like I've tried to get off of Instagram like completely and Facebook for like a period of time, and they literally send you messages like, Zoe said this, do you want to know? It's like it's like intense. So it's like
Yeah.
it's meant. So I think if you understand that and like try not to put shame around it, and again, if you then get yourself on a kick on it, like it's like, okay, now let's readjust. But I do think having
Mhm.
a kid helps because it really
Yeah.
helps you be like, it's almost like you're able to explain it to him and like be understanding and then be more understanding with yourself. But yeah, I do think like being really intentional about it. And I really try. It's like, if I'm going to go on there, I'm interacting with the people that don't live next to me. I'm like interacting with other business owners. Like I try to be as intentional as I can and not just like mindlessly scrolling on, which again happens sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I always say like the best accountability is having a kid because now my daughter's like the age where she'll like pick up on like, she thinks my laptop's like the coolest thing ever. Like if it's out, she wants to type on it. And that's just something where like if you're telling them they can't be on screens, why can you? Like the double standard is not acceptable. So yeah, I agree with that. Like kids, you're modeling to what's acceptable and what's like not acceptable in a way. So it really
Well,
keeps us
technology
accountable.
is going to be like it's a big part of our life. I can only imagine what it's going to be
Yeah.
like when they're our age. So it's like, you don't want to restrict that. And I mean, Nate has his job because his mom
Hmm.
got a computer really early on in the UP from
Hmm.
someone gave her one, and he got to like mess around with it when he was little and like got really involved in computers and like now has a whole career around it. So it's like, I see that with Nate. And so it's like when he
Hmm.
wants to go mess around with stuff, I want him to like be able to know how to use
Hmm.
technology. But then yeah, it's like teaching, it's like we're almost learning together on
Yeah.
how to put those boundaries around it. But I think that's the same thing with guests and stuff too. It's like, okay, yeah, putting some of those restrictions with them. Like we try to communicate to our guests, like, okay, the best way to communicate is through the app. Like maybe first go look here, here, and here, like kind of really telling them
Hmm.
how you want to be communicated to. Because I think that sometimes if you offer like, here, I'm here all the time, you're going to just get
Yeah.
people texting you or calling you. And we've had that happen where it's like, you're not even checking in for like 6 months from now. Like,
Hmm.
so yeah, putting some of those ways around to like how you want to be communicated with is important too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I put in like the house rules, like you can contact me up until like 10 p.m. or something. And then after that, like maybe I'll respond, but it's not expected. And I think that's the same thing, like knowing your demographic. Like I know digital guidebooks and digital everything and QR codes and this and that is like the coolest thing ever right now. But I know our guests would like never understand to scan a QR code and join XYZ. Like I am being realistic in a way that I understand that's like the movement, but if your guest can't understand or isn't a part of that, it's just going to dampen their experience when you could just keep things sometimes simple. Also, I have like the most not tech person of a husband. So it's kind of brought me back of like, if it's written down, if it's visible, like that's what they want to see. It doesn't always have to be like, click this link, scan this code,
No,
get this.
same for
Like,
us. That's why we haven't quite figured out how to do. So we didn't want to do like Stay-Fi right now or anything because I didn't want to add like another layer of
yeah.
complication. And we also still are like, we have a lot of resources on our website for guests. We have some digital resources, but I am really strong on sticking with my physical book because
Hmm.
I do feel like there's a lot of people and they'll even like read through it. Like some people, that's their habit is they come to a new place, they'll read through it, know how everything works in the house. We have recommendations right in there and some other things. But yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. I think that there is this trend to like move to all of these complicated
Hmm.
things. And I think sometimes that can offer more questions. And same thing when we were talking about amenities. That's also, it's like, think about that, the cost of adding them, but also complications for your cleaning team, for your guests, like, and what you're willing, like, what's your threshold on that? Because
Hmm.
they are going to complain about it. Like if the hot tub, we get our service every 2 weeks and then we check it in between, but it's like, if you can't stay on top of that, it almost can hinder people stay.
There you go. Okay. Ivy's having like a melt.
I would kind of hear. Well, good thing we're
I'm gonna,
almost an hour
yeah,
in.
well, I'm gonna give Reed this ball so that he can try to put it down. And then I just have like 2 more questions actually. Yeah, she's like meltdowning. Here's the ball. I have like 5 more minutes.
He's tired.
Okay.
I feel like we should leave that in the podcast. Like
Totally.
real mom shit.
She's like meltdowning. She's not supposed to nap for like another hour, but that's why you have to put them outside, reset the
Yes.
brain.
No, we made Mannix go on a hike yesterday, and he was like mad at first, but then like you could tell at the end, I was like, okay, this is the right decision.
Yes.
He's like, this is
Yeah,
the
he
last
loved
thing
it.
I want to do.
Yeah, literally. Okay, I'm gonna jump back in. Okay, one last question I want to ask is obviously you're an Airbnb community leader, which is a pretty hard position to get. You're the founding board member of Maestra, which is Michigan short-term rental specific. So what are you working on currently in that regard? And then I want to jump into your next project down the road a little bit, and then just leave us with that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think for me, giving back to the short-term rental community was really important because I've been doing this for so long, and because I a couple years ago found like a really great community of short-term rental owners and like got so much out of it. And so yeah, I got to asked to be the community leader for Airbnb for Michigan. I've been doing that. I think it'll be 2 years in September. Yes, 2 years in September. So basically, I help run the Facebook page. We have a pretty big Facebook page. I think there's over like 2,000 or 3,000 hosts on the Facebook page. So writing prompts, answering questions. We hold events. We do like a yearly event. We do some online. We do some Northern Michigan specific. I got to go to Airbnb headquarters last year and like meet with the Airbnb and the other community leaders from all over. So that's really fun. I get to be in that realm of knowing what's going on that side of it. I mean, Airbnb plays such a big part in our business. So it's kind of fun to be that mouthpiece for all of my hosts in Michigan. And then the Michigan Short-Term Rental Association, that just formed last April. And I had gotten asked to be a part of that. Feel super honored for that. We're an all women's board right now, which is really cool. And there was 2 women in Michigan that really wanted to have something more short-term rental focused to really help other guests that were struggling with regulations. We do have some threat of regulations on a state level in Michigan, which would be really detrimental on some of the things that they want to do for the hosts. And a lot of times I have 9, so I feel like I have like a little bit bigger stake, but a lot of people are just one person. They're either just renting a room out of their house, they have one property, they don't know anyone. So this is a way for people both ways to be a part of a community and like when things are happening, have that support. So the Michigan Short-Term Rental Association, we're growing. I think we have 50 members right now. The goal is to be like the leading association for short-term rentals in Michigan. And I think we're making a lot of progress on that, but it's been really exhausting and really fun because now we're getting looked to help go to all these board meetings. Again, a lot of regulations coming through and a lot of different townships. And so it feels a little overwhelming at times, but it's kind of in my wheelhouse. Like I love helping people out and I love like bringing people together. So I get to plan events through that. We have like a couple coming up in the next month that I planned and get to like connect with other hosts and other people. So yeah, it's a lot, but I want to make sure I carve time for that. So again, making sure that you allow time in your schedule for something like that is important. And then being able to like sort of leave it and trust that some of the other people are going to take over some of the things. But yeah, I think it's important to support other hosts. And when you're an entrepreneur, it can feel very lonely. And so I think really important I know you've been getting a lot more involved with like some of the things happening in Colorado. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's kind of nice to know that it's not just you dealing with all this
Yeah.
stuff and being able to connect with other people.
Yeah. Well, and I think it just like gives you a bigger purpose in the world of real estate, that like it's not just your portfolio now that you're impacting or supporting. Even like with my mentorship students, it's like a lot of them invest in Colorado as well, maybe not in my specific market, but it just shows that like it's not just your own properties that are focused on what you do every day. It kind of gives you like a bigger movement in your career. And who would have guessed like 10 years ago when you were like, oh, should we do this? Now you're like working with literally one of the biggest OTAs, Airbnb, in the system, in the industry, which is really cool. But obviously you're still, you have a big project that's when you guys feel the need to jump on it. And I want to hear just a little bit about how you got to that land, hinting that it's land not done, and why you guys kind of went that route since it's a different type of zoning than what your other properties are. And do you feel like your decade of experience kind of, groomed you to what's next?
Yeah, so there was kind of a movement. A lot of us in the area sort of bought at the same time and became friends, or at least like kind of were following what each other were doing. And there was a lot of movement probably like 5 years ago where a lot of them like sold their properties and bought a hotel which is happening a lot now with
Mm-hmm.
some of the Airbnb hosts. They're like trading up. So yeah, I feel like I never wanted to sell anything. I think I'm a little bit more open to it now, but Nate would tell you probably not. So I wanted to be able to keep because economy of scale, I think, is so important. So I've always wanted to keep our portfolio and then do a commercial project, because I really do think it's helpful to like have that income, have those like be able to employ people to do that and then to move on to the next project. So we've had this land now. I feel like I'm a little embarrassed to say, but it's been before COVID. So it's like 6 years since we've owned this commercial piece of property. We plan to just do weddings and events on it first. So we went through a special use project for a year to get that approved, and it got approved during COVID. So then all the events were shut down. No one could hold events. And so we were like, okay, so now what? Let's actually get it approved for what we want to put on it, like the big dream, which was to build a resort on it. So then we took another year to get that approved, like by right. So meaning everything that we did on that was written down in the code of what we could do on it. So how many places we could have, what types of things can go on that property. So that took about a year working with an architect, civil engineer, building department, township, zoning, all of that. So that's been approved now for a couple of years, and thought we would be building by now. But again, I think for me, knowing that we have this, because especially what's happening in our state with short-term rentals, and a lot of our properties, thankfully, are commercial already. They're zoned commercial residential, but some of them are not. So like we've already been through some zoning changes that affected some of our properties. Thankfully, we could still rent them, but like put some restrictions on it. So knowing that like when we're ready to do our next project, we have this piece of land that's commercially zoned for exactly what we want to do. So we have a plan to do eventually, it sounds insane to say it out loud, but 18 cottages that are about 1,000 square foot. So similar to your cottage, a pool, a clubhouse, employee housing, maintenance building, cleaner, housekeeping, laundry building. So yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where I'm trying not to put a lot of pressure on myself because we want to try to self-fund as much as possible. And I really want to, so what's happening now is you have a business that you have to run, and then you're having to grow. You're dealing with this right now. So it's like you're having to run what you currently have, which takes brain space. And then you're having to like design and architect and like make all these decisions and then build. So I don't want to split my brain up too much right now.
Mhm.
So it's like getting our business really dialed in, what we have, getting our family really dialed in to like what is really a priority for us, and like those non-negotiables with our family of spending time together, and then taking this on. And I think we're going to go so slow. Originally, it was build 5 places first with the infrastructure, because we have to have one well for the whole place, one
Mhm.
septic for the whole place. We have to put the roads in right away for the fire department. And there's like electricity and all of those things that have to happen for the whole project. So originally we were like, okay, let's spread that over 5 places, build those first, and then continue to build. I think we're going to go down to like 2. So try.
Mhm.
So if we can split the infrastructure over those 2 builds and at least be able to like break even and then continue to build after that. So that's kind of what we're going through right now. We're just starting that back up very, very slowly. We met with a new builder that I think we really like, that will work well on this project. And it's just every time we try to start it, though, something happens. Like the fires in California, like a new president, like all of these things are affecting, like tariffs, like
Mhm.
building costs and stuff. So it's like, I know that they're going to keep going up. So eventually we just have to make a decision. But again, we want to make sure that we're able to sustain it. Like the worst thing that we could do is it's going to put a strain financially and mentally on our family. But the worst thing we could do is not have that cushion to feel so stressed and strapped, because that we want to be able to complete this project. So,
Yes.
and when you do a commercial project, they expect you to have like money saved up. Like you don't have to
Mhm.
do that with a rental, at least in my area. Like you don't have to have like a year saved up or 6 months saved up. In a commercial, if we went the mortgage route, would expect that from us. So making sure that we have that, so that they expect you to be like, okay, it's going to take you time to get this up and running and get it rented. So we want to make sure that you can afford to pay for this. So there's a lot that go into it. So we'll get there. I just think we're going to continue to scale back.
Yeah.
What that looks like.
I mean, I love because people don't normalize that doing things in phases is maybe one of the most sustainable ways to go about it when it comes to your own portfolio, especially doing it self-funded. Like, I really admire that you guys have done this. You own all your properties. You don't have partnerships on them, even though partnerships are great. It brings in other layers of things to consider, and you guys get to make those decisions yourself. If you want to sell a property, you and Nate just have to agree on it, and then you can sell it. And we have done the same. We're self-funding our properties and we own them all, but it's going to be slower if you're going to own all your own properties, like 100%. But doing things in phases, same with us, our land is getting built out in phases. Yeah, it's not as glamorous to show that you can build 18 homes in a year, but what is the mental health, or how many people are behind that to actually make that happen? I don't think people actually talk about that or realize that. It's just, the shiny object syndrome of chasing the final project, which, like you said, you might even like pivot what it becomes. Like you might do the 2 and then realize you have a huge demand for a big lodge and you want to do 20 people in one home or something. So I think it's genius that you guys are evaluating how you want it to come about and how you want it to come to life. I'm so excited for it. It's like absolutely stunning. The day that it does happen and come to life, I'm coming to stay. But thank you so much for coming on, Carrie. Where can everyone find you, get in touch with you, pimp yourself out?
So we have a website, roostnorth.com, that shows like all of our properties. Our Instagram is Roost North Rentals. So when Zoe was talking about some of our projects, we have some of those old things that you can kind of scroll through and look through, and probably in our highlights. And then I also have the Carrie Drier page, where I do talk more about like mental health and being a business owner, being a mom, and kind of some of the behind the scenes of just being a property manager. So both of those are good places, and definitely send a DM if you have questions. I love being able to help people, especially I know a lot of Zoe's people are just starting out. So that's like so inspiring and fun for me to be able to chat with people that are just getting going or kind of getting over that mental hurdle to get going.
Yes, I love it. And you guys, Carrie does a live every Tuesday on your personal Instagram, right?
Yeah, so the Carrie.Drier from 11 to 12 Eastern Standard Time. And my husband's actually going to be on it, but I'll save it. So because this podcast is going to come out after that. Zoe's going to be on it at some point. So yeah, if you can jump on those, they're really fun. I've been interviewing people that are in the industry or like that kind of are adjacent to it. So it's my version of a podcast, but that's the only way I'm going to get it done. Like we said, I'm just doing it because I know me and I know if I do it live, it will be done. So yeah, I would love to see some of you on there, and then I save it to my page too, so you can always look at it later.
Awesome. I love it. You guys, they're amazing lives. I was listening to the first one. I was like, this is a full on, like such an informative, valuable podcast. Like I was like, Carrie, save this to your feed so I can go back and listen to it. But as you guys know, Carrie is someone I really look up to, the way you've built your business, the way you run it. I think, you guys are doing it very similar to us. So Reed and I are always looking up to you guys and how you're making the moves you are. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You guys go check her out, go follow her, go stalk, and thank you again. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of Off Grid with Zoe Berghoff. If you got any value from today's episode, I always appreciate leaving a 5-star review or sharing with someone who is looking to live life on their own terms. I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for listening.